Welcome to Actually Contrøller, the podcast that is actually Contrøller, and we are actually in control of everything you are hearing right now. I'm so very sorry.
It is super boots and pants.
All right. And that's how we're starting episode 2. So, everyone, welcome back to the podcast.
Hello.
Thank you for coming back. I'm glad that the intro at least was intriguing enough to make you think that you want to check us out again.
Maybe we shouldn't say that. Maybe that wasn't what brought them back.
It's like maybe their second one will be better.
Maybe.
This particular
Morbid
podcast
curiosity, is that what you're saying?
brought to
Yes.
you by the color blue.
That happens.
It really does.
You get sucked into a video, you're like, I don't want to watch this anymore, but where are they going with
Oh, my wife has a perpetual problem of getting into a TV series, and then it'll be like 3 seasons in, and it just goes all to hell, and she's like, well, I can't stop watching it now.
Right.
I'm invested.
That's how we get. I mean, that's how they get you.
Yep.
That's how we get you.
How we get you.
That's how we get you.
So
That's
one's
why we are
a little more
Contrøller.
focused on.
Yeah, this one's
Yeah.
going to be a lot more focused. For the most part, all of them going forward from here are going to be a lot more focused, at least in principle. We're going to come into the start of the episode with a topic.
Podcast.
Yeah, with a topic.
Podcast.
Yeah.
Well, welcome to us, to where
Podcast.
we can't keep on a straight line.
Wait, we had a topic?
No,
Well,
not last time.
Oh,
not
okay.
the last time. This
Do we have
well, no, actually, the topic of last time was the podcast.
Okay, right. So wait.
Ah,
The
that works.
irony of being controller, we don't really have a lot of control over ourselves right now.
No, we really don't.
It's not my fault.
It's totally your fault.
It's probably because
I'm going to start keeping track of how many times he says that.
it's not my fault.
Drinking game.
Oh no, that's not until like podcast 4.
Yeah, we will have a drinking game coming up eventually.
Oh, you need to warn me on that one.
No, like what
we
we
will.
want to do is like get the
Starting
people
at noon.
who are watching us to decide an adjective. If we say it, we must take a shot.
So, funny story. That's actually how one of my first band, not my first band, but the
Wrote
band
their
that you
first
guys know me of. That's how we started. It was a drinking game at a Super Bowl party.
Yeah, I remember
Yeah,
you and
yeah,
I
yeah.
talking about that one.
That is
Man.
amazing.
I never hear the word Omaha the same again. Peyton Manning.
Well, there was a consideration of the word actually possibly being the trigger word for the shots, but we decided that whoever was doing the intro would probably be drunk before we got 3 minutes into the show. So,
Actually,
You could use any of our catchphrases.
oh,
as
it
a
really
drinking
could, and
game.
it would hurt. So, the
To be fair.
to be fair,
Actually,
here's the thing. So, this episode, we were considering actually starting up the
Take a shot.
conversation of what's really the difference and the nuances between the local and regional cover, original, and tribute bands.
aside
And-
from like the amount of money they get paid, we're not going to talk about that because that's rude as shit. Or that's
What are
rude
you
as
talking about?
stuff.
You guys are getting paid?
Yeah, no. No, we're original. We
we're
don't
original.
do that.
We don't get paid.
Yeah.
But yes, outside of the obvious topic.
Speaking of which, we would like to talk. No, never mind.
Yeah, outside of the obvious component of the money and everything like that, because the reality is the majority of musicians that are leaning, usually 100% in my opinion, into the cover portion, maybe not the tribute or the original, obviously, but the cover, usually angling it for, not all, but usually are angling it for the money out of it, in my opinion.
I mean, honestly, like if you're going to be a cover band locally and you're not doing the tribute band thing and traveling to like set up whole shows, that's like your bread and butter. You know
Yeah,
what I
and
mean? It's
again,
like a
I'm not
weekend
saying
thing.
that it's all musicians who do the cover band, because there are certain musicians who just the original thing isn't their bag, but they still love to perform and
Okay,
everything like that. So I do know that those people exist.
Okay, so like
But-
local scene style, like we got the band here. I'm not going to drop names.
Don't drop names for this type of a situation.
So, but we have some
Retake.
local bands here that do the cover band thing, and that's literally all they do. But
Yes.
they've also like got members that are active in the community of music.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, and that's not, again, it's not to belittle anybody or any specific band, but
Right.
for the majority of my experience of interaction, most people who get into the cover band most of them that I've talked to, they're not doing it just because they're not interested in creating originals and they still want to perform. They're doing it because they like playing music, but the main angle for the purpose of the cover band is usually because it's a good check.
Well, let's ask.
So they have the talent to play the music. They just don't have the talent to write it.
Or not even necessarily a talent. Sometimes that's the case, but hot take or not, but sometimes that's the case. However, a lot of other times it's more of a they're not wanting to invest the time into that portion.
Yeah, I mean,
of it.
Like I'd say when you talk about talent in cover bands, it really comes down to their social network, the individuals in the band, and their song selection. I've seen cover bands that, in my opinion, are mediocre. I mean, not horrible. Obviously, they've earned the right to play in a club or a bar, but as a musician, as a drummer, not a musician, as a drummer,
don't worry, we'll get into that
I do
topic.
recognize that, like, wow, they're not really doing a very good job of playing XYZ song, but because they're playing the hit and they're playing to the crowd, that even at mediocrity, they get a redate, they get a schedule again because the bar was doing well.
Oh yeah, and
so not to say it doesn't take talent, because it obviously does.
Oh no, it does.
But at the same time, we in our first podcast we talked about how back then music was like exclusive, like people actually, like, it was very difficult to get a band together and do things. Nowadays everybody can create music. So being in a cover band, like, everybody wants to be a musician, everybody wants to be a rock star because they've seen how lucrative it could be.
Yes, because everybody still plays into the old 80s moniker of what the rock star,
drug, sex, rock and roll,
what that possibly can be. But the reality is that, kind of to your point, that everybody can still be a rock star nowadays, more so than even what it was 15 years or so ago.
Without
with
the drug, sex, and rock and roll. That doesn't come very easy. You got to, like, chase that.
Oh
now.
yeah, no, that is far past.
Is it just because I'm the drummer? Is that why?
No.
I don't get it because I'm the drummer.
I think a lot of it also has to do with, like, if you're doing a cover band thing, you really don't have to stretch to advertise what you do as heavily.
I fully agree with that one.
Especially if you can, like, advertise what era
exactly
that you play
like,
for.
Hey, it's 90s night, or hey, we're playing nothing but this, or
speaking to our region too, like, and I've really joked about going to Nashville and doing, like, the actual music scene in our region.
Actually
specifically,
being a musician,
you
not
can
working
hold
with
a
people
9
like
to
us.
5 and then learn a cover set without actually putting a lot of effort into it. Obviously the skill set, not to me, because obviously there's a lot of work, but you don't have to have, like, multiple rehearsals and multiple preparation, because you can learn the song off YouTube, or you can learn the song off CD or whatever media you have, and you can learn the music that you didn't create. So it's just a matter of learning it, regurgitating it with other people,
which is its own skill set, and I will not belittle that whatsoever, because I mean, I will say that I have to be interested in a song to be able to
copy it well.
To be able to copy it well and everything like that. So it's not my bag.
I can speak to that because I'm in 5 bands, for those of you who have not followed us, and one of them is a cover band. We do anything from 70s, 80s, 90s, and 2000s without name dropping, but we do each set is a very specific period. And now that we're into the 2000s, there's a lot of songs not only did I not like, but I don't know them.
Right.
Like,
well,
we've
had those talks before.
Speaking to, like, the 90s, we did a Warped tour, and I knew of the bands that were on Warped tour or whatever. I knew some of the bands that were on that and played music, but I was asked to play some songs that I'd never ever heard before. So there's
not
a
that
lot
you'd
of
never
studying.
Heard the band, but the specific songs.
Yeah, there's a lot of studying. There's a lot of, I've got to listen to this repetitively so I know where, like, and this specific band, not all cover bands are like this, but this specific band likes to be true to the album. So some cover bands will take a song and they'll play it close enough that the crowd
yeah, no, you got it right,
the
buddy.
drunk crowd has a good time because it's close enough. Our band is very specific about, we want to play it true to form as close as we can.
Yep.
And so that's that next level of musicianship too.
Well, and I also will state this, that as far as what I've experienced with cover bands, not only do you have the band that wants to, more properly represent what the original song was, but you also have the other cover bands that know what venues are easily trying to lean into, because there's a big difference between the cover band that's trying to really get into the nightclub circuit and into the bar circuit comparison to the Legion and the Eagles and all of those type of stuff.
It really depends on the crowd. That's
those type of cover bands that I've experienced, it's not that they are not sometimes made up of really talented musicians, except they, for the most part, they're a lot less worried usually about perfect replication or anything like that, because for the most part you got kind of the guy that's been a member of that Eagles Lodge for the past 30 years. It's going up there because it's still $2 beer, and he wants to hear music on Saturday night.
Yeah, well, and
then the people that just want to get up and be able to dance to something they know.
Yep.
Yeah, and when you come across situations like that, that's like a captive crowd. That's what they want, whereas with like a lot of the times when you're an original band, it like, okay, good luck getting on the radio.
Yes.
Good luck getting out there and letting people hear you.
Well, without a lot of financial backing.
Exactly. And then on the post end, you're trying to make sure that you not just advertise that you have a show, but you're trying to make sure that you're bringing in people who might very well buy anything that you have for sale that day, like whether it be T-shirts.
Well, because reality,
or a podcast.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, like
$29.99.
Quite realistically, a lot of original bands that I've seen will wait to play out in and around what they consider their circuit till they have like a new EP to drop, or they have
they worry about being on a cycle and everything like that.
Exactly, because the money that they bring isn't made off the door anymore. And
no,
it's a hard place to be at.
Well, you also, like, to that point, you learn what venues, clubs, and areas that you can play in.
Right.
Like one of my projects, we've been to Michigan, we played Ohio, we played some other clubs that fans and friends have been like, why don't you play this? And it's like, that's not our scene. Like, you have to, as a business person, you have to know where your scene is.
Exactly.
There's a local bar here in New Haven that does really, really well with metal and hip hop. Really, really well. But you put like a regular rock and roll band in there, and it's sparse.
Yeah. Well, and that also being said, but at the same time, it is that perpetual battle when it comes to at least the original stuff, that you also you can always hear from other bands that, oh, don't worry about that market, it's cold market, don't try to tap into it. But then all of a sudden you get an offer to go run that market. You're like, okay, we're available, let's grab onto it and everything. And I'm not putting any high hopes into it because I already got told it's cold market. And then you roll in there and it's one of the best shows that you've ever had.
Yeah.
And then you also, on the reverse of that though, because we've also gotten pulled into other markets, this is a hot market, it's great, there's always a receptive crowd because this bar has a built-in crowd, and you get there and there's crickets.
All right, real quick before we go too far.
Yep.
I think it's important to let people who are listening know that we live in Fort Wayne, Indiana, the home of Sweetwater.
That is true.
And here in this particular town, unlike a lot of other Midwestern towns, there is an incredible amount of talent of all archetypes.
We've imported way too much.
Very saturated.
It's like blues, hip hop, like you call it, man. We got it.
Every genre and subgenre attached to that
we're
genre.
Like half the size of a town.
It's nice that I actually did have this conversation the other day about how diverse and how thriving we are in terms of, like, there is no lack of talent, there's no lack of musicians, there's no lack of musical groups. Really, for our specific spot, there's just a lack of clubs and bars that will take a hit because they're really in our specific niche. There's only like 4 or 5 places you can play if you're originals, and they don't do very well on their own without the bill, whatever bill that comes through.
Well,
you know what I mean?
And to be fair,
well, and even with those bills, though, sometimes we've been in that boat where we're the pull for even that bill.
And that's where I get to my second point. We've got what I would consider a kind of fragmented scene, because we got the scene kids that grew up in this environment who are like, I love you guys to death, are all freaking like above the bar when it comes to what it is most people would listen to. And then we have the other scene kids who are, just eating up whatever is the standard of media or whatever, but those two stand opposed to one another. So we have like different groups where it's like, dude, if you go to certain bars here in town, you will only see certain archetypes of music. If you go to certain bars here in town, you will never see other archetypes of music because they consider them outside of their circle.
Well, and each bar has their little niche crowd.
It's a little extra here, more so.
No, I will argue that one from going up and doing many of different bars for shows up in the Detroit area, down in the Savannah area, down in the Indy area.
Detroit's a little weird too for the same sort of reason because, like, I would say like Detroit, Cincinnati, maybe like down in Indy, more Michigan, like Grand Rapids and like the Battle Creek area, really pushed heavy for like metal, punk rock, and grunge for a time period.
Yeah,
and there was like the White House. Okay, I'm name dropping. I'm sorry.
Well, that's down in Indiana. That's over in the West Lafayette area.
Other White House that was up north when I was still in Mob 9. So, but there is so much talent that there's like small groups of people that you have to either be in with. If you're not, then you're not really going to get that play.
And I get that.
Wait, are we still talking about original?
Yeah, we're still talking about original.
Yeah,
but
original.
At the same time, I don't feel that's as... I don't feel the niche thing is... Well, no, I don't feel the niche thing is as exclusive to Fort Wayne as I think you're leading it to be, because the reality is that I think it's less of a niche thing, and I think it's more of a, we have imported so much talent into this town due to being Sweetwater that we end up we have a population that's almost spoiled for choice.
Yeah, saturated.
Here, the reality of it is most bands in this area who play originals spend too much time trying to buddy up with other bands and be friends with other musicians. You need to build a fan base outside of that.
Yeah.
And in our market, the fan base wants covers. The fan base wants recognizable tunes that they can get out. You know, hey, this is my one weekend I can go out and party. I'm not going to spend it going to see my best friend play his original because I can go see a cover band with all my other friends who don't even know my best friend. You know, so that's the reality. That's the growth that all the original bands in this area, you've got to find a fan base outside of your friends and family that will help you grow.
I mean, not to mention that this area here is also like heavy with karaoke. So like
karaoke, if it's country and covers, and that's why I refuse to do most show trades because it's very difficult.
Yeah, sorry that this one's maybe not as fun as the intro video was, but I mean, this one was kind of a topic that we felt was...
This was a good topic to argue with.
Well, this is the first topic we threw out, and I think it can be very heated. It can be very eye-opening.
Divisive.
Everybody has a lot of different opinions about how it goes because there is so much of a melting pot, not just here, but like everywhere. I mean,
no, I will agree with you that there's a melting pot everywhere. I would just say that for a town that is under 250,000. Because of Sweetwater, we are much more saturated than other market towns that are our size.
No, I will say I'm more
that level of talent.
I am more inclined to go see a tribute band than what I am a cover band.
See, and
why is that?
Because it's the idea that the tribute band is going to be more apt to personify the band that they are actually be.
If they're worth their weight,
playing a song.
Rather than just playing a song from them, they're taking their entire catalog, looking at it. They're taking the members of the band, looking at them and going, okay, how closely can I portray to make people appreciate us to be a sidebar of seeing the actual band itself.
And when you say that you're a tribute band, there has to be something just beyond the music that you're into to be able to drag it out. I mean, like, we got this guy here.
Well, hopefully at that point with the tribute bands, you've got the musicians, at least most of the musicians, have an appreciation for the band that they're emulating.
Yes.
And that transcends, so not to call out, but that's part of what transcends in the tribute band that I'm in, is that 3 of the 4 of us, and I'm not the one, I'm the 4th.
Yeah.
3 of the 4 of us absolutely love the band that we cover. Or tribute to, so it's very authentic to what they do or how we perform and the song selection we go through and how we get. And it's so much so that people have said we sound and we look better than the original because we have that passion,
Yep.
we have that energy, we have that drive to do it. There is money involved, but there's no like we're not being fed thousands and thousands of dollars in all these record contracts because we're doing it for fun.
But a lot of times, seeing the tribute band is so much easier than seeing the actual band out, especially
Or even just more
ticket
affordable.
prices that are.
Yeah.
been
I mean,
out
we
there
can-
lately.
There's the back end of it too, like what he had mentioned, like certain tribute bands kind of do it better than what the original. Okay, I'm not going to throw shade to original bands that did the thing and then became popular. They had great producers, they had wonderful recording, but when you see them live, they're just not as clean as what you might have heard on
I
that
think I've
album.
seen
or
a
But I
few
limit
bands
some of that
like
sloppiness
that.
to the
Like
fact that
that.
money is their motivating factor.
Yeah,
and
they've
that's
already
fair.
made a career out of this.
And
They're
that's
not
fair,
there.
But then you turn
the same way
around
they
and
used
you
to
watch
be.
certain, again, you turn around and you watch certain tribute bands and they just blow it out of the water, and it's like, this is almost as good as listening to the CD, but it's live, and that's what most people actually want when they jump into a show.
And
they
that
wanna
really
see
ties
that.
right into the whole like covers and what
Yeah.
we're doing around here.
Yeah.
And Fort Wayne is starting to really accept in terms of fans, not necessarily musicians, but Fort Wayne is starting to accept more tribute bands in the area, and not just mine, but Chicago is starting to bleed over here. I have personally pulled some bands from other regions as well. To your point, like not again mine, but to the bands that are coming through, these are bands that you probably won't see or you can't afford to see
Right.
on a normal
Right.
basis. So for the band I'm in, if you're not living in California or Vegas, you will probably never see them live. And if you do, they're coming for a one time, which they did come for a one time. We were told they were not. What's the word I'm looking? They were under the influence, and so they were not able to perform to standard. So yeah,
Minor shift.
you were talking about ticket pricing and things, and that there are some that come through that there's the actual national is still active and they're coming through, and those tribute bands don't always do very well. So it is definitely a growing market. You've got AC/DC, you've got there's quite a few that come through and sell out the Clyde, which is 1,200-1,300 or more. Like they can, they sell it out because who's going to see AC/DC live right now? You know what I mean?
I also love the premise of the gimmick tribute bands. Those
Steel Panther. I mean, we can just call it out. We're not going to be endorsed. Steel Panther.
Going more with
Steel Panther. If you're watching this,
Wasn't it like the McDonald one? I can't remember.
No.
Oh,
I think there's like a Kiss band that's like all little people.
Is it Mini Kiss?
I think it's
I
Mini
just
Kiss.
listen to
I'm not
weird
sure.
stuff, man.
But
'cause,
there's a lot of fun like themed tribute bands that are out there that are doing it for the gimmick but they still do the music really well on top of it.
I guess Steel Panther was probably a bad one. In your
only
example,
because
Steel
they're doing
Panther,
all original.
They don't.
Yeah.
Do they do originals?
Yeah, they do.
They
all
just kind of
original.
do like an 80s.
They just do it in spirit of
the 80s.
yeah,
here.
of the old crew.
Excessive.
Yeah,
Like,
true.
Poison, that type of stuff.
One of the first tributes that I actually went and saw was a Pink Floyd tribute, and
Pink Droid.
the show was
Name drop.
actually,
just phenomenal.
They're big enough. We can name drop them. It's fine.
I mean,
And if you're watching,
they brought on the full laser
The-
light show. They brought just like it was spectacular.
yeah, and the first one that I saw was like Zoso. I'm gonna name drop. I don't care. They're big enough too, for Led Zeppelin, and it was fabulous.
I guess I take a little bit of a different take, and I'm going to throw this one out there because I've read this in a lot of different forums in regards to tribute bands. This is even coming from certain bands that are still, at bare minimum, at least active enough to do like reunion shows and everything like that. Mm-hmm. That a lot of bands that I've read have actually thrown objection to the term tribute. At bare minimum, to the bands that are still fully active, because the term tribute is usually in regards to something that is no longer around. Hey everyone, thanks for checking out this episode of Actually Controller. This one ended up running a lot longer than any of us had anticipated, so this is now going to be a 2-part episode. You can catch the second half next week, so thanks for checking us out, and we'll see you there.
Thank you for listening to Actually Controller. If you liked what you heard, please consider following us on all our socials. You can easily find us on all the different platforms by going to linktree/controller33 or scan the QR code if you are watching the video version of this episode. Thank you.